All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick, back from his undisclosed European nighttime location. Drew, good to see you. Today we're going to talk 3 NFL games, largely involving the teams that played on Monday night. So we're going to talk Titans, Browns, Saints, Packers, and Steelers, Raiders. Very wonky Monday night football fixtures, but let's talk about the team that I think took the biggest hit by far of the 4 teams that played on Monday night. That's Cleveland. Cleveland are now 3-point favorites home to Tennessee. The total is 39.5. Obviously, Nick Chubb, unfortunately, is gone for the season. Myles Garrett is banged up. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome. There's just a lot of injuries in that Cleveland-Pittsburgh game. What do you make of Tennessee-Cleveland?
I see the Browns as 3-point favorites, and I shake my head like, how is this? In what world? After what we just saw, after the way that Deshaun Watson has performed as a Cleveland Brown, I am not sure I understand how they deserve the respect to be 3-point chalk against even the Titans, who have, a very clear deficiency on both offense and defense. That said, I can't take the Titans +3. This is a absolute nightmare matchup that we have been sort of waiting for their offensive line. Through 2 weeks, the Titans have played 2 pretty anemic pass rushes, with the Saints week 1 and Chargers week 2 hasn't really manifested in total chaos in terms of shutting down their offense. The Browns have been unbelievably strong outside of, a handful of moments against the Steelers team. They were dominating, dictating that game. And I think realistically, it's fair to expect that is the distinguishing factor in this contest. The Browns D-line ultimately being as, the unit that matters most. And so therefore they should be favored. I don't see any way though that Deshaun Watson's going to be able to run away with this game. He is not able to take advantage of the one key weakness for the Titans, which is their pass defense, really their secondary. I would expect that the Titans defensive line, which I have huge regard for, can get pressure, particularly in the absence of Jack Conklin in this one. And Jeffrey Simmons can be a difference maker. The absence of Chubb is going to matter. And I think this is ultimately screaming under. I know 39.5 feels very, very low. I think this is probably something like 6 points lower than the preseason look ahead, or maybe, I think the market was kind of on to the Titans being a low total team. So maybe the preseason look ahead was like 43 or something. But I think we're on the correct side of 40, and my fair total here is 37. So this is under or past for me. And my gut is that this is coming off of 3 in favor of the Titans.
Yeah. Deshaun Watson right now is looking like the 24th best quarterback in the NFL or something. He looks to me like a slightly worse version of what Russell Wilson looked like last year, where there's just everything is just the beat off. To be fair, against the Steelers, he did have flashes with his arm where in week 1 and for lots of the end of last season, it looked like he just mechanically just couldn't throw. That wasn't really the issue last night. It's just more that he's just not feeling pressure. He's making random, bizarre decisions, like the deep ball to Marquise Goodwin that just didn't have a prayer into double coverage and should have been picked. The pick 6 was a little bit random given that it took multiple deflections. But, yeah, he doesn't look right at all, which is a shame for them because Amari Cooper looks great. Elijah Moore looks rejuvenated, and now obviously without Nick Chubb to save them. Jerome Ford looked fine last night, had the big run, but also outside of the big run was, I think, 15 for 37 on the ground. And I think the sneaky thing with Cleveland and their offense is that offensive line isn't nearly as dominant as it looked last year, with particularly with Jack Conklin no longer in the picture, out for the season. DeJuan Jones did not look good at all last night, but he's one of the biggest people I've ever seen. 6'8", but it's not helping him with his blocking or avoiding penalties. So offensively, they are a bit of a mess at the moment, which is a shame because the defense is unbelievable with Garrett and Zadarius Smith anchoring that unit. They really should have beaten Pittsburgh. It's a farce that they lost that game. Pittsburgh had the ball for, I think Pittsburgh ran 53 offensive plays and had the ball for 24 minutes, and we'll get to them. But this Cleveland defense, if it's healthy enough, looks like a monster. Don't really know what to make of the Titans. They just have a very strange team. The offensive line has not been good. Tannehill was better against the Chargers, but still not great. And then the secondary just keeps getting lit up, and the run defense is awesome, but it's just a weird profile of a team. Do you think that if Garrett is a little banged up, if Ward and Newsome are banged up, do you think that there's any chance that the Titans can score on Cleveland?
I don't think that induces scoring, and I don't think that makes the Titans a bet or the right side, but I do think that moves the market. Ultimately, if the people are looking at this game through the lens that we're talking about, where this is Brown's defense is going to be the controlling unit, and they start showing up with mispractices and people start swirling with questions, people look a little bit closer at the tape of Myles Garrett and try to get a gauge on exactly how right is he going to be, especially on 6 days rest, then I think that Titans are going to take money in. So I think if you have appetite for Titans, you need to act relatively early in the week and get it ahead of this moving to +2.5. And it wouldn't be a regular season 2023 NFL game if I was wrong about the market move on a Titans game. So for all I know, this goes to Browns 3.5. But I think that the likelihood that the Browns injuries move inspire market activity is higher than anyone realizing that or kind of coming to some sort of conclusion that the Browns offense is going to be the controlling force in this one, because they don't match up well against the Titans. Realistically, the Titans have absolutely the perfect DNA, and Mike Vrabel's kind of conceptual framework for defense is ideal for stopping what the Browns want to do with their rushing attack and the play and playing off of it with play action. So Deshaun Watson, X factor, surely. I get it. I saw the flashes you saw, but I still think that this is a team that has an albatross of a problem, and I don't know how they deal with it in terms of where do we go from here with Deshaun Watson. So I guess just let him continue to play and hope that he gets better. But surprised that the NFL doesn't take action for him pushing a ref. Surprised that this is. That he has any kind of support in the building right now for the way he is playing, but they're giving him the money, and that ultimately dictates. So, from a betting perspective, though, I think if you're going to make a play, it's Titans +3 and under 39.5.
Yeah, Deshaun looks like there's going to be no discipline for what he was doing last night. Just a weird performance. That whole game felt like a feverish nightmare. Just overall with all the injuries, and Deshaun's just grabbing people's face masks every play and pushing officials and heaving up deep bombs that don't have a prayer. And I don't know, it's just a very strange game and strange performance. And he, at least he showed some, I guess, athletic and physical talent last night in a way that he kind of hadn't previously, but he doesn't look right at all. And I think Cleveland probably got the worst quarterback in this matchup, which coming off of what Ryan Tannehill looked like in week 1 in particular. Certainly Deshaun has a lot more upside, but Tannehill might be the safer bet, which is pretty rough when you're paying a guy $250 million and he's not giving you a clear edge at home against Ryan Tannehill. All right, before we get to Saints-Packers, it's an old-time AFC rivalry renewed on Sunday night as TJ Watt, fresh off his scoop and score touchdown, and the Steelers travel to the desert to face Devontae Adams and the Raiders. In Las Vegas, coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. We'll talk about that game in a sec, but let's start with Saints at Packers. Packers are -2. The total is 42.5. The market seems to really respect the Packers, where they were favorites for much of the week heading into Atlanta before the extent of their injuries became known, and the Saints, who are kind of still the default favorites in the NFC South, and look amazing against the Panthers last night, but they did get the job done. They did have some good flashes where the defense looks solid. Michael Thomas looks rejuvenated. Chris Olave looks incredible. They don't have any running backs left, literally, which is a problem, but they just seem like a solid team. Do you think the Packers warrant being 2-point favorites here?
I do. I make it 2. I think the side is fair. I think the Packers probably win. My angle attack would be under 42.5. I think realistically the Saints are going to struggle offensively in this contest. I think what we've seen from them through 2 weeks, while they have played two relatively good defenses, the characteristic that I would use, the adjective I would use to describe their offense is just relatively unimaginative. I think specifically the fact that the Saints don't have much to rely on in terms of a dynamic running attack outside of the very predictable Taysom Hill draw plays are, it's a little stale, it's a little stagnant, and with the Packers pass defense and particularly the strength with, and really their concepts of relatively light boxes and more secondary pieces out there, and Jair Alexander going lockdown mode on Chris Olave, that does put a premium on contributions from Michael Thomas. It does put a premium on some of the third wide receiver 3, 4 and tight end contributions in this one through the air. And so I think for those reasons that you're going to get a little bit of a lower scoring contest here. And I think Jordan Love still, while he has shown certain signs that he does get it, I worry a bit here that, just a well-coached defense for the Saints and good linebacking core is going to be enough to really keep the Packers in check to the tune of about 20 to 23 points. My, median expectation here is about 21 to 17. So I'm pretty well under 42.5, expecting the Packers to win by somewhere in the 3 to 4 point range. So, I think Packers are the side. Under is the total lean here, and as we kind of see this market mature and particularly get some information about the health of Jordan Love and really the health of some of his receiving weapons is going to, in my opinion, move this number out to 3 before we get to the weekend. And total, I haven't played under 42.5 yet because I have hopes that this ticks to 43, and 43 could be a relatively key number in this contest. So hoping to get under 43 before I play into this one.
Yeah, Jordan Love is one of the strangest players in the league right now, where there's a big disparity between, like, his stats on paper look, incredible. 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, EPA per play is excellent. Just he's very efficient overall, but he has a PFF grade that ranks him as the 24th quarterback in the league out of 33 qualifiers. And I kind of lean towards certainly more towards PFF than Jordan Love, being a top 3 quarterback in the league, where a lot of it is yards after the catch. And he just isn't getting the volume in the passing game. He was 15 of 27 against Chicago, which, whatever, that game was well in hand. But then he 14 of 25 against Atlanta. I haven't, he doesn't have Christian Watson yet, which hurts, but I think we still need to see it from Jordan Love. Are the Bucs the best team in the NFC South?
Probably. No one's good though, man. The NFC South is
win the division. They might be the best team.
I can't get involved with the Buccaneers, man. Baker Mayfield's the minute you kind of buy into them, Baker Mayfield turns into a pumpkin. That's just the way it's go. That's the way it's always been written. And Todd Bowles, I still am a little bit out on him as a head coach. So we'll see if they prove me wrong. But I think the Falcons ultimately win this by attrition. I don't have much to go on here other than we're going to talk about it week in, week out, that Desmond Ridder's the 32nd best starting quarterback in the league. And yet here they go, keep winning and winning and winning and winning because Art Smith is a little bit of a magician. But the Saints, this is probably the Saints' first loss of the season. It's probably coming because I would expect that to the degree that you want to, Mike LaFleur wants to, Matt LaFleur wants to attack the middle part of the field that really test the safeties. And I think the Saints are somewhat susceptible there. Like if there's one weakness, that's where I want to try to get after them. And so I would expect that the yak comes back, and that in general the Packers can eke out an ugly win. I wouldn't lay anything more than Packers -3. I wouldn't play anything under 43 in this one. But that's kind of where my head is at.
Yep. Going to be a strange little game. Two teams that don't really make a lot of sense at this point. Before we talk about Steelers Raiders on Sunday night, a reminder that Bet the Edge isn't the only show every weekday during the NFL season. You can also check out the Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, Connor Rogers, and myself. It airs live on Peacock at noon Eastern and re-airs at 4 p.m. and is available on our NFL and NBC Sports YouTube channel, as well as wherever you listen to your podcasts. The Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday Night Football are -1.5 against the Steelers. The total is 43. And as someone who last night would bet on a lot of different individual Steelers props and watched every second of that game, needing Kenny Pickett to kind of hit his receivers, that was absolutely brutal. Kenny Pickett has been awful during 2 weeks. He does not look like an NFL quarterback. Deshaun Watson, I think last night had a QBR of 16. QBR is on a scale of 0 to 100 and was the better quarterback in the game because Kenny Pickett was at 12. And I don't know how he got to 12 because I guess it was all the Pickens slander out to the house because
it was one play.
And their offensive line in Pittsburgh is just completely broken. There's no chance. These runs of Najee Harris up the gut. It's just like, all right, well, let's hope that they don't lose yardage. That's about the best outcome that you can get here. And Pickett, even when Pickett was kept clean, the rare occasions, he's just missing receivers wide open. And everyone's going to say that, Pickett, he's gone up against the Niners and Browns defenses, who might be 2 of the 4 best defenses in the league. But when he is kept clean, he's missing guys wide open. Maybe that's inferred pressure from these defenses, but still, there's just been nothing to hold on to so far. With that Steelers offense, they missed Deontay Johnson. Now they're relying on George Pickens, who was great last night and had that one big play. But outside of that, it's Allen Robinson's a big part of this offense, and he was cut he's moved on from the Rams last year. Calvin Austin is now really playing a ton of snaps. There's just not a lot going on there. And then the defense, I don't understand how the rushing deep, Nick Chubb and the Browns, yes, that's an elite rushing offense, but they ran all over Pittsburgh after Christian McCaffrey and the Niners did, which again, you'd say, all right, well, the Niners rushing offense is elite. The Rams really bottled up Christian McCaffrey outside of that one breakaway. Outside of that, it was a negative success rate for the 49ers on the ground. So I don't know what's wrong with this Steelers offense. This defense isn't that impressive. What do you make so far of the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably are a bottom 5 team, which is crushing to say out loud because I thought this team had top 10 potential preseason. I'm not giving up hope yet because the strength of opponent has definitely mattered. And I also am still wondering, the game has felt like it is moving way, way, way too fast for Kenny Pickett. And he's a young quarterback. He will continue to get reps. The game will continue to slow down, presumably, unless he's the next Zach Wilson, which he might be. And I think realistically, the fact that he took such a heavy, significant shot to the head in the third play of the game against the Niners, I did not bet the Steelers in Monday Night Football, even though my numbers said to, because I was worried that he was still dealing with some sort of the effects of that. And going up against a nasty D-line on the heels of potentially getting your bell rung is not good. Now, this is a much different test. The Raiders' defense, I think, can be had. I think the fact that the dink and dunk Bills' approach was so effective against the Raiders is a good blueprint for Matt Canada. In fact, that's what Matt Canada wants to do for, in large part. So, I think the Steelers can find some success here. I'm probably ultimately going to play them on the money line here if they remain dogs. But even more than that, I think over 43 is the play. You brought up a key factor, which is the Steelers' defense has been miserable defending the run. A huge factor of that, of course, is that Cam Hayward has been out. Really, he missed a ton of time. Key portion of the game against the Niners where they were so effective on the ground was with Cam Hayward out, and then similarly the Browns got it done with him not playing the game, and I would expect that Josh McDaniels can scheme good offense, particularly when his rushing attack is balancing his passing attack. And while I know the questions are swirling about the availability of Devontae Adams, I think there are enough weapons, and I say that like there's questions swirling about Jacoby Myers, I guess too. The wide receiver core is banged up. I get it, but I think the Raiders can lean on the rushing attack enough to get a couple of touchdown drives in this contest, and I do think the Steelers can answer, as this is a huge step down in terms of quality of opponent from a defensive standpoint. So can both of these teams get into the mid-20s? I hope so. I think 43 to the over is the best angle of attack here.
Yeah, it looks like Josh McDaniels said Devontae Adams is on track yesterday in his presser for week 3, so it seems precautionary. Also, indications are Jacoby Myers is progressing in the right direction. Don't know if that means he's going to play, but I would say that he's probably more likely to play than not. Minkah Fitzpatrick as well looks like he is fine. So a lot of the injury question marks will go outside of Cam Hayward and Deontay Johnson, who are two of the best players on the Steelers and are both definitely out. So I don't trust anything about the Steelers team at the moment. Like Deshaun Watson was dreadful last night, and Cleveland still should have won by 10. That's how bad Pittsburgh was. And maybe the Steelers offense just against in comparison to the Niners and Browns, an anemic Raiders defense, maybe it just looks a lot better. And Kenny Pickett looks more like the guy he was towards the end of last season. But at the same time, the only thing I really trust in this matchup is Jimmy G's been pretty good so far in Las Vegas. And if he's got Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, I'm pretty confident that passing attack should be efficient enough. No faith in their defense whatsoever, or really their offensive line. But I think that is the most trustworthy element in this matchup. And so, I might lean slightly to the over as well. But if the Steelers, if they lose this, then all of a sudden I think the drum starts to beat pretty loudly for Kenny Pickett, just given that, he came in last year, and I think overall the idea was that he made decent enough progress, particularly with those late comebacks towards the end of the season in prime time. But it's been a dreadful start, and I think he can almost at this point just throw away all the good stuff from the preseason if he doesn't perform against the Raiders.
Yeah, again, I'm hoping against hope that this was concussion related and that he ultimately gets right. And, a good get right spot is playing a team that doesn't have cornerbacks. And that's what he's got on the card this week. So hopefully, get a little bit of chemistry. I like some of the depth. I like Allen Robinson's shown a little bit of a pulse. He's got a pulse. Austin's got a pulse. These guys, I'm not saying they're going to have breakout games. I'm not saying the Steelers are going to score 30 points here. But I definitely, can they get to 24 and can they keep the Raiders to 23? Sure. And I think ultimately this is probably a game that's decided by kind of end of game state and, field goals towards the end of the game. And, hopefully we're not really sweating it over 43 at that point, because that's really kind of the strongest angle I have on this one. I think this total should be closer to 44.5. And anything under the key of 44 is a play to the over for me.
It's a little depressing that we are assessing optimism on the Steelers side by the fact that their individual players have beating hearts.
Oh, wait. We didn't even talk about the beatingest heart of them all. Jaylen Warren. Talk about a pulse.
He looks good, yeah. He seems, particularly in contrast to Najee, Jaylen just seems to be running downhill when he gets on the field. And then if Najee Harris didn't break off those 220-yarders at, I think, the start of the fourth quarter, then I think he would be out as the starter. Yeah. I think that was – he probably saved his job with those 2 runs, which admittedly were good runs, but he just looks like he's running in mud every time that he's out there, and he's not being helped by his offensive line. Last one before we sign off. The AFC North market is a complete mess because you've got the Browns, who are now missing half their team. It's the second favorite. You've got the Steelers, who are a mess. The Ravens haven't looked that impressive, and they're minus 110. I am kind of buying into the Bengals again in the plus 450 range, just because this division is a mess, and the hope that there's upside with Burrow maybe just being fine after a week. And if they can eke out a win over the Rams and then Burrow is potentially back in business, I think that would be my bet in the division. Bengals in the plus 450 range. But what do you think?
This division makes me want to scream. I can't wrap my head around it at all. This is so far from expectation in terms of the talent on these teams, the quality of performance we've seen through the quality of coaches, all of it. Like, none of it checks out. You have 4 good coaches, you have 4 good rosters, and you have absolutely miserable football so far. And that goes for the Ravens, who have eked out 2 pretty awful wins. And I think the name of the I'm not really even saying this in jest, but I think we wait for Jeffrey Simmons to high ankle sprain on Deshaun Watson this weekend, and then we buy in the Browns when DTR comes to save the day.
I can't quite get there. I think the Bengals just need to, if they can just eke out this win over the Rams, where they are favorites right now in the market, and it's Monday night, so Burrow's got an extra day. You just get through that. Then it's at Tennessee, at Arizona, Seattle, into the bye. And then all of a sudden, if they can get to the bye at 3-3, and then Joe's calf can rest up. Because I do think they are the best team in the division when fully healthy. So that would be my play at the moment.
You
know what? Fantastic.
You know what the absolute most, the worst possible outcome is going to be, considering the way I stack my futures book, is that all of these teams stink all season long, and the Steelers eke out the AFC North with an 8-9 type of record. And then Tomlin's well out of contention for Coach of the Year because he's basically won it by default. But yeah, I'm struggling, man. I do not love this.
I will say that the good news for the Mike Tomlin futures portfolio is that this team looks so horrific that if he can get them to 12-5, if Pickett can just flick the switch, then he's going to win the award, because they've really anchored themselves to misery. But they're 1-1, same record as the Chiefs and the Bills, as they say. So who knows? Maybe there's some hope yet for Tomlin and Mr. Pickett.
Hey, you know what else we can say, Jay? There were some stretches last season where the Giants were this bad. Yeah,
there were some stretches where the Steelers were this bad. And then they won like 7 off 8 or something. So
that's right.
Wouldn't give up on them. But yeah, it's been a bad start for young Kenny. But maybe he can turn the corner. All right, we are done. Don't forget to check out NBCsports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please don't forget to rate and subscribe. And a reminder to find all your favorite NBC shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, we'll see you soon.